I've gotten super uncomfortable the last couple of weeks because everything that, I shouldn't say everything, that's being a little over dramatic, Caitlin. A lot of the things that I have rested my laurels on, that I have been teaching online for the past 4 years, that I've hung my hat on as a healer, as, you know, a teacher, as a spiritual voice in the communities that people are looking up to, a lot of those things are kind of becoming obsolete over the next couple of years. And for those healers that are out there that are one-trick ponies, oh my gosh, they are going to be in trouble if they are not ready to go back to school and do some learning, because the way the new earth blueprints are coming in, we can't operate how we used to operate. And the way we approach healing and forward momentum, and the way that we're going to have to dive into our spiritual work to accelerate our bodies, it is changing, and it has already changed, and we're going to have to adjust with it. You know, one of the things that's really challenging me is even our big decodes program that we teach, I have to overwrite like over half of that pathway, because it's just not going to even matter to the new blueprint and what's happening with humans coming forward, which is like scaring the bananas out of me. So I want to, if you guys want to hear about it, kind of share what those things are, because I think we all need to get our heads wrapped around this, that we're going to have to actually change, which is a scary thing.
Yeah. And paying attention to when things change, because this is pretty new. Like for a long, long time, it's been the same story. Like we've all been telling the same story, that we need to, you know, do our ancestral line clearing, you know, clean out our trauma and all of that. So some of us have been working on for a long, long time. Not all of us, but some of us have.
So basically that's over. In a way, like, and I'll give some context to this. Okay. So the first one I want to talk about actually is shadow work. So what is shadow work? It's this idea that we're going in and healing all this stuff that we consider not to be the forward-facing parts of us, that we don't necessarily want people to see, or parts of our trauma or triggers or drama that we've been a part of, the things that have kind of like been tethered in our behind that we don't necessarily want to like front face. The other thing with shadow work is people tend to get very addicted to it and stuck in it, because our body starts pulsing all of these hormones out, and it's like, keep feeling shitty, right? And so we get into these crazy downward spirals. Sometimes it even triggers those dark nights of the soul. That's not going to be happening. And it's going to phase over the course of this year. You guys are going to see this. People are still going to be talking about it, but it's not going to be weighted. It's going to be so fascinating to see how everybody goes and pulls at these threads, because the energy is getting unplugged from something we call the Bardos field, which is what kind of is like the sandwich or the matrix that has held all of that trauma drama in place forever. It's already folding in on itself to get ready for these new blueprints, these new timelines. And so all these things we've actually been addicted to, it's like the rug is going whoop, coming out from under your feet. Now you're going to either have to find a new addiction or actually learn how to thrive without it and actually be in flow. So that's number one, that's kind of moving. What's replacing it though is in motion clearing. So instead of us going into these deep pits, it's like when we notice something, it's going to be like, whoa, what is that? Okay, clear it. Next, now go back into action immediately. Mm-hmm. So it's like that dwell phase, that part where we are all getting like really tired and stuck in our trauma.
Or feeling like we have to clear it all first before we do XYZ.
Oh, gag me. Don't do that. You'll get nowhere.
That's old news. That's last year. That's the year before. We're not doing that no more.
Last year. Colby, we can talk about that in a call one day. I've talked about that for a long time, that astrology will come to a point where it's no longer relevant because of the new earth timelines. It really is an installation that was put in place to get us through this Akashic field until humans got back to the level that they need to be at for their divinity. And so that system will go away, and we will be completely reliant on our own internal radar systems and the bridges we create with others. And that'll be that. Like the planets will not dictate. And what else is super interesting about that, if you guys ever get to listen to some of these channelings, the other, we'll call them other collectives that are out there, they don't use astrology. They don't have the grids programmed like we have the grids programmed. Not in the same density, not in the same way. There's some of them that still use different cycles, but not all these different lessons, not all these different things. So you guys, a lot of those crutches we've been using, they're starting to fade out. Colby is a multi-dimensional starseed. He's fine. He'll find a different hat to hang on.
Well, and it's so important as healers for us to like constantly be paying attention to the energy that's running and not just making assumptions that because this is how it always was, that this is how it's always going to be.
Yeah. Especially right now in these big shifts. Also, highly recommend this one. It's so good.
What flavor is that?
It's the Synergy one, strawberry lemonade.
Oh,
I am a super fan of this one.
yum.
Steve thinks it tastes absolutely nasty, but frick dang, I like it. Okay, number two. Number two is compartmentalization. Oh, this one's going to be super triggery for a lot of people as they start to experience it, not so much the concept of it. So what do I mean by this word? I mean that some of us are still walking these duplicitous timelines where there's one part of us that we show to our friends, our family, our coworkers, our boss. And then there's another part of us that's hiding out over here that is displaying all these other behaviors, thought forms, beliefs, and systems. And there's an incongruence between the two of them. What's happening though is we are getting pressed into deeper and deeper and deeper levels of congruence in body, mind, and soul, because unless those things are stacked equally and actually operating how they're supposed to operate, we get sick, we get tired, we get depressed, we have things we can't move, we have things we can't heal, right? The list just goes on. And as we start to shift into this new level of consciousness, the body and its struggles, in a way, I don't want to say become obsolete because that's not quite right, but it's not what we're so focused on. These last couple of centuries, I mean, we've had so many advancements like in homeopathy, and then it was canceled out by the people who started talking about germ theory, and then it went on to vaccine development, and then it came back to terrain theory again. And we've had all of these different ways of really focusing on the body. But what we're now coming into in these next waves of is the body is just respondent to the terrain we give it on all layers and all levels. And we can't outrun the germs. We can't outrun the viruses. What we can do is we can control how we think, how we feel, how we move. And if we are bringing that all together in one symbiotic environment. So all those ways that we've been trying to hide, put those masks on, step back from all the people, that's going by the wayside too, right? We'll have a lot of fun with that one as people start to really realize what they've actually been hiding. Okay, which leads me to the next one, which is the fake it till you make it syndrome. Giggle.
Well, it's so funny. That one has worked for many of us on some occasions and other ones not so much. So now it's kind of like moving into the state of just not going to work for any of us really at all.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit in our last energy update too about this rise of the false prophet. We've talked a lot about people who are teaching from like book learning, not knowing because they've experienced.
So like memorizing information to then
yes.
turn around
and regurgitation.
Yeah.
And what we're going to see heavily this year is all the people who are parroting and they don't actually know because they haven't actually done and they haven't truly lived it and integrated it. It's like their tones are just going to fall flat and the environment that we're in is going to get a little less noisy. There will be a little less entrepreneurs. There will be a lot of people who start folding in on themselves and start going like, this is a mask. This is a way I was showing up. This is inauthentic to me. This is something I need to fall in. But in the same breath, we're also going to have the people who have those really deep levels of knowing because this is their life. This is what they do. This is what they live. This is what they breathe, are going to start naturally kind of coming into connection with the people around them. And their circles are going to grow very rapidly post haste. Like it's going to be crazy. And we're going to really see that the knowers, the wisdom keepers, are going to be on the rise this year. And the false prophets and the ones that are kind of faking it and really just using all the really noisy advertising metrics and things like that, or that are like 17 amazing ways that you can amplify your spirituality. Like, gag me. Nobody gives a flying baloney fart about that, in my opinion. Maybe they do. Do they click on that stuff?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think what we're going to see is a huge rise in authenticity. And I think we're also going to see a heck of a lot of people kind of get called on their ish this year and step down to go back into the role of, I need to actually know before I actually lead, in a way, which will be interesting.
So in all ways, it just feels like a coming into a space of, we can't keep fighting our nature.
Sure can't.
Yeah.
You're going to actually have to be radically who you are. 2022 is really about figuring all of that out and being so okay with it that you just learn to rock it, and it is what it is. And that's all there is to it, right? So a lot of these things that we just talked about, we're going to be working on over the course of the Starseed Accelerator here. This one we're calling Awaken and Align, and actually walking you guys through the process of unplugging from those old addictions and closing those fields out, and then getting you to actually go through your own field and download your own data set of what you need to do for 2022. Because quite frankly, it doesn't matter what I say or what I think, or if I was to project what I think you should flip and do. It is irrelevant. What you need is your data set that you programmed, that's in your morphogenetic fold, that has to come through all of your subtle bodies in order for you to find congruence. So that's what we're going to be doing over the 5 days of this accelerator. And if that sounds fun, stick around. If you're like, that is not up my alley, the leave group button is up in the upper right-hand corner. Thank you for spending your time with us. We'll see you in the next round.